You ready? Are we ready? Oh, we're not quite ready. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer by Supervisor Mastelier.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, we'll get to have some pretty good discussion. Let us remember that if we have disagreement of opinions, that we should not sacrifice our integrity or that of others because of petty disagreement. We do this in the Lord's name. Amen.
Roll call. Supervisor Gillett has asked to be excused. Supervisor Dell said that he will be slightly late. And who else does that leave us with? Oh, Supervisor Yonke also asked to be excused. Is that an emergency management event or activity or training or something? All right. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Looks like we have a motion by Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Swaggle to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda that you have before you? Right. We will register. You may register your vote now. Supervisor Brown? There we go. 17 in favor, none opposed, 3 absent. Motion passes. Agenda is approved. Moving on to approval of minutes. If there is a motion to approve minutes. Supervisor Lazansky makes the motion to approve minutes, second by Supervisor Kroll. Is there any discussion or corrections to the minutes that you have reviewed? Seeing none, you may register your vote. 17 yes, none opposed. Motion passes. Citizens input, if you're prepared, sorry.
The board will hear concerns members of the public wish to raise, but will not discuss or take action on any matter until the matter can be placed on an agenda with proper notice to the public. The board welcomes citizens to present their concerns to the board in a professional manner relevant to issues affecting Kewaunee County. Each citizen may take 3 minutes to present their concern, and the board has allotted a total of 20 minutes for this portion of the meeting. Please be mindful the board may halt any disruptive comments and any comments that are threatening, vulgar, or abusive. Matt Josky.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come up and speak. When I was putting my name down, it had a topic. So the only thing I could think of was recognition. So I'll start it this way. Leadership is a set of behaviors used to help people align their collective direction, to execute strategic plans, and to continually renew an organization. There is leadership by virtue of position and leadership by virtue of character. I want to call out and give recognition to a leader who has spent the past years calling out and recognizing others for their efforts and achievements, Administrator Scott Feld. Scott has provided motivational stories on Mondays, Tuesday topics, thankfulness recognition on Thursdays, and even some lighthearted funny bone humor on Fridays. This is what you do in leadership. You build up, you encourage, you guide, and yes, sometimes you must provide corrective action. Yet even in those corrective actions, you do so with the intent of growth and encouragement. True leaders celebrate their team's successes as much as their challenges, for it is in those challenges in which real growth occurs. Administrator Feld has been an integral part of this county's leadership, initially by appointment, but over time, and even more importantly, has established himself as such through his own personal efforts and meaningful interactions. Scott has championed leadership training for our department heads in an effort to build strong cohesion and improve our effectiveness. He has worked to update and change policies and practices when and where possible. Please join me in thanking Administrator Scott Feld for his many years, or for his many efforts in trying to make Kewaunee County a better place to work and play. It is no secret that my own relationship with Scott experienced early challenges. Through mutual respect and appreciation for different perspectives, those challenges now serve as a forge through which we arrive at outcomes in the best interests of our community. Too often as leaders, we forget the key characteristic of a good leader: humility. It is a humility that must guide our every action. It is humility that we draw upon to guide these we are responsible for. And it is humility that must be foremost in our mind in those times when we invoke both praise and punishment. I keep a rock on my own desk for this very reason, as it is a reminder of a powerful biblical story, a story on which humility is the key lesson. It is vitally important as leaders that we look inward to our own faults before standing judgment on the faults of others. I look forward to continued involvement and growth in the development of our department heads and department staff that Administrator Feld has championed and this board has supported. Thank you.
Are there any others who have signed up to speak?
Deborah Noel.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Noel. I live in the town of Casco. Concerning the Cedron Varcor project that is proposed for the Kinnard CAFO, I am requesting the Kewaunee County Board, Health Department, and Land and Water Committee to hold a special public meeting for the public to ask questions and have a presentation on the proposed Cedron Varcor manure processing project for the Kinnard CAFO and the practices and operation of the farm before and after the system is online. The Varco system will be designed specifically for the Kinnard size and conditions for processing manure into aqueous ammonia, biosolids, which will be high in phosphates, and water to reduce liquid manure spreading on lands in Lincoln Township and Door County. I am aware there was a town hall presentation meeting in Lincoln with a rep from Cedron Varcor and the Kinnard owner. Many of us throughout Kewaunee County and Southern Door were not aware of this meeting that took place on the proposed project. Many of us have concerns and questions that may involve our lives and environment here in this community and beyond. While the Varcor system sounds amazing to help reduce manure spreading and hopefully will reduce contamination in wells and groundwater, the doors it may open could have other consequences that may affect all of us in many ways. Will this allow increase of herd size and invite more farms to become CAFOs? Will the quantity, approximately 400,000 gallons per day, and quality of the effluent piped approximately 1 mile away from the farm will be discharged to the Casco Creek, which flows into the Kewaunee River, and then to Lake Michigan? Will this have complications and adverse effects? Will this and other CAFOs mass water usage affect aquifers, groundwater to reduce recharge enough recharge enough during times of drought conditions? Will there be enough oversight before and after system is online? Until this project is complete, which could be 1 to 4 years, Kinnard Farms is still spreading manure on lands and polluting our groundwater, lakes, and tributaries. These are just a few questions and concerns I have. The public should be able to have their questions and concerns answered and considered. It would be important to have the DNR reps involved in permits and the Kinnard Farms and the Varcor Cedron reps be participating in this presentation and answer questions to the public that they may have. Not all negative consequences are in control of these parties once the door is open. Thank you.
Are there others signed up? Are there any others who wish to speak to the board? Yes, supervisors? Well, that would be Highway Shop Subcommittee is listed under committee reports. If you have questions at that time, certainly. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to the board? Are there any others who wish to speak? Very well, thank you. We'll move on. There are no appointments. Annual reports and other reports as requested. The county administrator, Mr. Felt,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a few things to update the board. Uh, Regarding the county jail project, as many of you may be aware, a pre-bid meeting was conducted on May 27th. The bid documents are out for contractors and subcontractors, or I should say subcontractors. There will be a bid opening of those bids on June 8th at 2 p.m. here in the county boardroom. Right after that bid opening, there will be a certain amount of time, a week or two, that will be used where the Samuels Group will there verify the bids, review them, analyze them before decisions would be made. Again, any decisions would come back to the board as to moving forward. A couple other things for those of you that came a little bit early. You were able to see some of the video work from our public information officer, Josh Visti. He has a number of short videos that are on parks and the fish hatchery and a number of different things. If you weren't able to see those, you can also go to the Visit Kewaunee Facebook page and website, and you should be able to see it there as well. They're very well done. They're very professional, and I'm glad that Josh is here. He is doing a fantastic job. Last but not least, I put a copy for those of you that for some reason don't read their Kewaunee Star. There is a copy of what was a full page ad that has been put in the Kewaunee Star for the last 2 issues, which again was put there to allow residents that if there are concerns that they have or work that was not done or holes or cones or pieces of plywood covering holes, that Bug Tussle could be made aware and take care of those items now that the snow has melted. They're trying to get that done by Memorial Day. If not, they plan on having it done shortly after. So if there are other questions or concerns regarding that, please feel free to come see me and I can help to relay those to Bug Tussle as well. I think that's everything that I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Hopefully people will have been made aware of that ad. I think we've done, I'm not sure what more we can do to get word out. It's been a full page ad. It's been run twice. Now it's here tonight. So if people have cleanup that hasn't been completed, I hope that they call that number soon, so that we don't have them finish up and then have people complaining that they still have issues. So I appreciate that that's been put out there. I haven't had any phone calls since the ad, so that's a good sign. Any questions for Mr. Felt? Very well. We'll move on to committee reports. Sounds like we have at least on the very least, sounds like we have questions on the Highway Shop Subcommittee. Supervisor Swagel, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, I received a phone call about it and I read the article in the paper also about the highway shop and the $10,000 to pay an architecture firm. And as I've said, when Mr. Poppy brought up with the chairman of the committee, bringing up that the repairs and the discrepancies or the deficiencies, I should say, of the building, and he echoed positively when I said that's how I feel. I made this public person or gentleman very happy, but that's probably not how most of the board feels, but saying that the building needs to be maintained, repaired, fixed, whatever the deficiencies are, and he positively does not want a new highway shop to put 20 some more million onto the taxpayer with paying for the jail now, or whatever the cost you had put for a new facility building.
I did not read.
Well, no, the article in the
this.
paper did not say about 20 million, sir. But I
It
think
did-
that
it
was
did-
brought up.
The article did not say about 20 million.
Did it? I don't think so, sir. About the 10,000 for an
I'm asking, I
architect.
didn't bring this up, so I'm asking you
Okay.
to.
It's you just
You
mentioned 10,000
you
for an
just put out the
architect.
figure of 27 million, so I'm just trying to
I
figure
did
out.
not say
where that came
27, sir, 20 something, sir.
20 something.
Was
Okay, I
stated
misheard.
when
20
we talked
20
about it before.
20 something or 27 million, I think we would agree is, not a lot of difference.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I'm just wondering where that figure came from.
Well, there was some numbers or 21 or some million for a new highway shop, sir. What was your number, sir?
Can you turn your microphone on, Supervisor?
What was your
Poppy?
number, Mr. Poppy?
I don't think we don't have a number right now.
There was a
So
possible number said at one of the meetings when this came up with the.
Well, there was, you know, and I'm trying to recall, and maybe somebody else, Supervisor Vollenweider.
If I may, I believe Mr. Every at one of our briefings he gave regarding that, it was a preliminary new construction cost of $19 million. It was just a number that was put out there. I don't think it should have, it was prematurely put out there, I believe, but that number was put out some time ago.
But I certainly don't think that there's any project.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think as this project moves forward, we will definitely keep this board informed of
Thank you,
what's
sir.
happening, by all means. But I think it's way below that number.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And that $10,000, that is to actually find out what options could be pursued, including repairs to the building. Well, there will be repairs to the building no matter what,
Thank you, sir.
to existing buildings. The question is whether or not there would be any additions to existing facilities and what those would cost. And we
Thank
don't
you, sir.
have any idea what that is at this point. All right, any other questions on any Supervisor Teske, please?
What if there's some people on this board that don't want that $10,000 to come out of contingency for the highway? Then what? Highway shop?
That was approved by finance, and finance has the authority to spend that money. They have the authority to go up to 20,000. So finance approved it. You could take it up with the, I suppose you could voice your concerns to the chairman of finance, and or you could have, I suppose, come to their meeting when they approved it.
So that won't be a resolution before the
It would
board.
not, it would not. It was put on the finance agenda. The agenda was posted, and the finance committee discussed and approved that that motion. Other questions on any of the reports, minutes that you have seen? Yes, Supervisor Haskey.
Okay, I just want to mention some stuff about human services. Human Services is exploring a wraparound house to support high-cost families. The CCS and crisis position was offered, and the person will take the job as of June 5th. Her name is Krista Dickey. And there is a vacant economic support position. The posting ended on Friday, and they're in the process of testing the people for that position. So that's what's new with Human First.
All right, thank you. Any questions on any other reports? Very well. First reading of ordinance, we have none. Consideration of resolutions. Are we ready for the first one?
A resolution granting the petition for Bridge Aid, Town of Franklin, fiscal impact 4,100 from County Aid Bridge Fund.
Supervisor Luke's made it on the tablet, second by Supervisor Augustine. Discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion which you have before you, which has been made and seconded? Seeing none, you may register your vote. $18 in favor, none opposed, motion passes. Whenever you're ready for the next resolution.
A resolution approving the acceptance and expenditure of ARPA funds, County Veterans Service Office. Fiscal impact, additional 15,878 of grant revenue, as well as 15,878 of expenditures in the Veterans Office.
Supervisor Kroll makes a motion, seconded by Supervisor Haskey. Is there discussion on this motion? Supervisor Lukes?
Did the Veterans Office get a separate ARPA fund money, or is this from the county's general money?
Mr. Felt?
Thank you. Supervisor Lukes, what had happened is that the state had provided an additional money, about 15,000 and some change, I believe, whatever the number was that Clerk Anoy had said. And so this was additional state aid that came to Kewaunee County. So it's not any kind of county general funds. This is state assistance that goes strictly to the Veteran Service Office.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, just for an addition as well, this was also approved by the Veteran Services Committee and the Finance Committee.
Any other discussion? Very well. You may register your vote. Supervisor Langto? Thank you. 18 in favor, none opposed, motion carries. On the next resolutions, make sure that you are aware of what these include. Go ahead.
A resolution approving transfer of funds, unspent and surplus 2022 funds. Fiscal impact, 70,283 transfers between county funds. Carryover of 226,036 of items budgeted but not spent in 22 into 23.
Was motion by Supervisor Romden. Second by Supervisor Agamite. Is there discussion? Yes, Supervisor.
I have a
Coffey.
question on number 16, item 3, I guess. The 38,145 from land conservation. What was that budgeted for, or why was it left over?
I believe, I'd have to look at it. Was that a carryover of a vehicle that had not yet been delivered? So it was a vehicle that was not yet delivered, and so therefore we needed to carry that over for the purchase of the vehicle.
Thank you.
Was-
Thank you.
Was this, these were approved by finance? Supervisor
Correct.
Romden?
Yes.
Okay. These were, very well. Other questions on the motion? Any other questions or discussion on the resolution? Very well, we register your vote. 18 yes, none opposed, motion carries. Whenever you're ready.
A resolution approving allocation or transfer of funds, unspent and surplus 22 funds. Fiscal impact, 30,000 allocated for additional building maintenance in 2023. 182,362 allocated from unassigned fund balance to assigned fund balances.
And these were passed through finance? They were? Okay. And this is just for the $30,000 and the 32,000? Did I hear you correctly? Sorry.
Do you want me to read fiscal again? It says
If you would.
30,000 allocated for additional building maintenance in 2023. 182,362 allocated from unassigned fund balance to assigned fund balances.
I'm not sure I'm understanding. Am I on the right page here?
This is.
Okay.
Do you want me to read?
No, I know where you are now. So we're talking, this includes then the $75,000 for the financial human service resources software and $75,000 for a future wage study. That's in the resolution. Correct. And I asked, that was passed by finance? Okay. Is there a resolution? Motion by Supervisor Augustine, second by Supervisor Mastelier. Is there discussion? Supervisor Swaggle?
Thank you. What is the set aside 75,000 for a future wage study? Why?
That is, we would pay an outside source to come in. They would charge $75,000 to study our current pay system and tell us that we need to pay more. Did I represent that incorrectly, Supervisor Poppy?
Doesn't sound well. Now, when is the future, sir?
Future? As soon as you
Future wage
wait the
study, so-
motion. I don't know. When's the future, Mr. Kunish?
This is setting it.
This is one of,
Setting it aside that have to be approved by. Board.
so this needs a 2/3 majority, correct?
Chairman, can I
Yeah,
ask
Supervisor
Scott?
Kennard.
I mean, Scott, could you explain this to us? Maybe I heard Paul, but
There's probably a few different things because there's different items on there. One is $75,000 for a financial and HR software package. We know that we currently have an antiquated financial system software. And we know those are expensive, but we also know that it's taking some time to figure out what is the best system to do. But we also don't want to have that be 200,000 plus all in one swoop. So we can start to squirrel away some money to pay for that system. From the wage study standpoint, it's up to $75,000, depending on what the firm would cost. Sometimes they're 50, sometimes they're more. What that would do is that would look at job descriptions, job titles, do a market analysis amongst peer counties and the market as a whole, and therefore provide recommendations as to where we might be short, where we might be fine, where we might be over. And from that standpoint, the executive committee, if they so chose, they could then make any recommendations that they would want to the pay plan. But prior to that being done, what would happen is that the executive committee and the county board would have to approve any allocation or spending of that money. It would just be setting that money aside. We have done them in the past, well over 10 years ago. We have not done one since. All I did was put that on the list for a potential, but it does not in any way obligate the county to do a wage study nor to spend the money.
But the reality is that if it were approved by the 2/3 majority here tonight, a simple majority of any committee could approve it.
No, that's not correct, Mr. Chair. The reason why I say that is while the money has been set aside, it has not been approved to be expended. And because it's over $20,000, so even if a majority of the executive committee were to approve conducting a wage study, because it is over $20,000, board rules state that it must get county board approval for that to move forward. The only other way that it could be done without the executive committee is if it was put into the budget as a line item and the board were to approve it as part of the budget. But that would not be my intent because I believe that something like this needs to be discussed at the committee level before it then moves forward to the board level.
Supervisor Patricia, first, I apologize. Your request to speak is not showing on mine. So I have to watch the big screen here tonight. So I did not see that you had put in.
No, it's exercising patience, no worries. First off, I don't think it's fair to necessarily come up with a preconceived notion on what the study would or would not say. And going back to what I said when we talked about the budget, I think it is important that we not only retain, but get new, if there are new positions, the best and the brightest that we have for our county. And I think, an integral part of that is obviously wages at this time. And from what I'm understanding from both Administrator Felt and Corporation Counsel nodding along that, it seems like it would not be a carte blanche acceptance of signing away $75,000. I do think that it is something that is worthwhile to make sure that we can retain and attract the best talent that we have for our county.
Supervisor Volenweider?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then the number of $75,000 is just simply going to be set aside. And it will later be approved by either the executive committee or the finance committee as a recommendation to the full board. And with that understanding, I would hope then that we would be putting it out for RFPs and that number would be, I'm hopeful, significantly lower than $75,000. But I do agree that we need to be sure we know where we stand in the scheme of things in today's environment with personnel, wages and compensation. So as long as I understand the pathway to committing to that money in the long run, I'm okay with it.
Supervisor Lukes.
This was brought up at executive last month, and I believe the consensus was that we're not going to pursue a wage study at this time.
Correct. Supervisor Brown.
With this subcommittee that we got going on for the highway shop and because of that, you drive around, I have, and looked at other counties, especially their highway facilities. And when you look at Brown County, Door County, O'Connell, Manitowoc, and then come back to Kewaunee County and take a look at our buildings, we need to spend $75,000 on a wage study, and then we're only going to spend $30,000 on maintenance. We have paint that's falling off of brick, and of course it's deteriorating because it's not protected. We have flashing that doesn't get repaired on our buildings. I mean, it is really ridiculous how little we spend on maintenance. It's almost like we're in this cycle where we let the buildings fall apart until they're too far gone that it literally doesn't make any sense to repair them. We let them get to a point where the numbers just don't make sense to repair it. Let's just start brand new again and put that burden on the taxpayers in the county. It's ridiculous, the path that we're on. Like I said, the maintenance on these buildings is just, it's poor. And to spend $75,000, I own a business and I have employees. And when I want to find out if I'm paying my guys enough, I go on the internet and I do a little research. And there's absolutely no reason why somebody on the county end can't make a phone call to Manitowoc, Brown County, Door County, and find out what they're paying their guys and stay on track. I mean, if you're not paying your good talent enough money, they're either going to quit or they're going to ask for a raise. And then from there, you make a decision on where we need to go with wages. To spend $75,000 on a wage study, it's just ridiculous.
Other discussion? All right. Well, I'm sorry. Supervisor Poppy.
So we did a wage study in about 10 years ago, and basically we got that wage study back and the book went on the shelf and we never used it. And I'm afraid that's going to happen with this one also. There's ways of doing adjusting maybe our pay scale or a stipend or something at the end of the year, which would work probably just as well as a wage study.
Supervisor Vollenweider.
I agree, and I said that in my initial comment. I don't believe $75,000 to be anything that I would support. A wage study of some sort, whether it's done in-house or complemented by an outside resource, I would entertain looking at it. I think the concept of having a wage study, understanding where we're at, is something we need to look at. And always have an idea of where we stand. Today's market is so competitive. If you wait until somebody's looking to leave because they don't feel that they're being competitively paid, they might be already out the door. And while I say that, if we know we're at the point that we can be, I mean, many of us in here are business owners and we understand we can only pay so much. And the county is really no different. I mean, we have a ceiling on how much we can afford to pay. And if that isn't enough, well, then that isn't enough. So I think looking at it is definitely worthwhile in our best interest. But yeah, the dollar amount for today, to me, is irrelevant. If it's got to go through the processes of committees and board for a final approval, that's fine. Otherwise, we could amend the motion to, I don't know, whatever, but I think it's something that's worth looking at.
Others, any other questions?
Otherwise, can you amend that motion and come back to it?
I mean,
Take that
anybody,
out?
if, people can make an amendment if they wish to, but I don't have an amendment before me. I mean, if somebody wants to make an amendment, they can hit the amend button on their tablet and they can make an amendment and we'll have a vote on the amendment. And
For
if it
just
passes, it
procedural,
passes.
if we
If
could
it
get
fails, then-
clarification, Mr. Chair, for procedural, if we could get clarification on how we would rescind the motion and amend a motion.
Well, you couldn't, I don't believe
Or
the
how do you do that?
motion, the only way to rescind the motion at this point, and the parliamentarian can correct me, would be to kill it. Correct? I mean, they can amend it, but to rescind it, it can't be rescinded at this point. Okay, so who was the motion was Supervisor Augustine, the second was Supervisor Masterly. They would have to be amenable to rescinding.
Yes.
Yes. So, sorry. Well, yes.
As this is a HR and personnel matter, I'm just kind of curious why the administrator thinks this is necessary as opposed to just picking up the phone and doing a phone study on this.
What I have done from a pay plan standpoint and continue to do roughly every 2 to 3 years is I do contact and send emails out to roughly about a dozen counties, of which I could list all of them. But so I already do a kind of unofficial kind of wage study in that respect. I think that and have tried to provide that information. We know as a county, and I think that Supervisor Poppy alluded to it, is that the wage study would demonstrate that we, compared to peers and other counties, that we pay significantly less than our peers in a number of positions. The question then would come down to is, I don't believe, for me, is that as a county administrator and just sending emails with pay plans and doing what is a rudimentary type of analysis, of which I am not a compensation specialist expert, that therefore to provide that type of recommendation to the board when we're talking about pay and wages and salaries, I feel more confident by giving that information, having that information come from experts that do that for a living. Again, the $75,000 is a placeholder. It doesn't mean that it's $75,000. $75,000 does not mean that it would have to be spent in 2023, 2024, or any time in that respect. What it does is it does set aside money that if the board were to so choose that they wanted to conduct a wage study, then money has been set aside for that study.
Other questions? Oh, Supervisor Vollenweider.
Once again, then I guess at what point do we need to set aside the money? If we're looking at doing a wage study, why, I guess we're kind of getting a cart in front of the horse. If we're looking, this could be a couple of years down the road or at any time, we could either budget for it or the request could still go through committee at a future date to get these funds. So I guess why would we have to earmark the money right now?
We could just as easily do what we did a couple years back and have a group of appointed supervisors go through all of this for about $74,000 less.
And not set aside any of the money at this time.
That's a possibility. I mean, supervisors can do whatever they want, but the reality is we know what the wage study is going to say. And, the reality is we go through this every year at budget. The reality is the county can pay what it can pay. And, it's a question of how much we are going to raise taxes, how much burden we're going to put on the citizens. So I don't know that we need a wage study for it, but again, other questions? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Supervisor Augustine.
I would like to amend my motion on this resolution to remove the $75,000 future wage study, if that's possible at this
Yes.
time.
So that's not an amendment, you're withdrawing your motion.
No, I'm
What-
amending my motion.
Okay, What is your amendment? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Remove the $75,000
Oh,
for the
okay.
wage study and leave the following three items in.
Okay. You want to read the amendment to us then? Oh, you need a. No. Okay. Wait a second. Okay. We'll have the amendment read back whenever as soon as the clerk is ready. No hurry. Make sure I
Sorry.
get it right. You're in a different screen. Technology is great sometimes. Technology is my friend. Ross knows that. Yeah.
Okay, so the motion was to remove the $75,000 wage study and leave the rest as is. Motion by Augustine, second by Swago.
All right. Is there discussion on the motion? Or the amendment to the motion? Supervisor Brown.
So then where does the $75,000 go?
It goes back into the general fund, Supervisor Brown.
I think it should go into maintenance, but maybe we could buy some paint with 75,000. I'd probably get a gallon or two,
Well,
maybe some flashing even.
it's possible. Other discussion on the amendment. Oh, Supervisor Romden. It's not, so use the one next to you if you would.
This one.
That way we can hear you.
Oh, it is. Thank you.
It's that button on the right.
This thing wasn't shut down far enough. Anyway. With this amendment, if in the future, then this board would ever decide to say we need to have a wage study done, we would be able to find funds for it either from the contingency fund or from the general fund in the future.
You would have to, but I believe it would require at that time, Mr. Depo, it would require a 2/3 motion, correct? Or not? Yes.
Not if it's contingency funds. If it's contingency funds, that would be again, a majority of the finance committee. If it's coming from the general fund, it would have to be a majority of the finance committee and then and then 2/3 of the county board because you are changing the budget.
All right,
Thank you.
Supervisor Swaggle,
Does the amendment just need a simple majority?
the
don't
amendment
make-
would need a simple majority,
sir.
and then we would have to have a 2/3 majority on the motion. Am I correct, Mr. Depo?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The amendment needs a simple majority, but then we would have to go back to the original motion, which requires a 2/3 majority. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, good question. Okay, are there questions on the amendment? Any further discussion on the amendment? I'm looking at the big screen. So anybody pushed? All right. Then we will go to, does anybody need the amendment read again? I think we're clear. We will go to a vote on the amendment. I have 14 yes, 4 no. Motion carries. The amendment carries. Now we will return to the motion. So the motion, then, are there questions, further discussion on that? Okay,
For clarification, Mr. Chair, you may want to have the clerk again,
read the full motion. or
the
motion?
amended motion, yes.
The amended motion. If you would.
So the amended motion is to remove the 75,000 for wage study and leave the rest as is.
Is everybody clear on what the motion, the amended motion is that you are voting on at this time?
So it would be on the resolution number 1 2, 3 would remain the same. Yes. Number 4 is removed.
Supervisor Swaggle.
The amendment is voted on and done, correct?
That is correct.
We're going to move on to the original minus.
Minus the
Thank you, thank you.
75,000, but it would stay in as future wage study, but no amount, correct? Yes,
Thank you.
all right. So wage study would still be in there, but not an amount set.
My understanding, Mr. Chair, is just that all of number 4 is stricken, the wage study and the
Okay,
dollars
okay.
itself.
Okay, so the whole wage study is out. Supervisor Romden, I see your flashing yellow sign.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So based on this resolution as amended, the numbers on the bottom, the fiscal impact would be $30,000 allocated for additional building maintenance and $107,362 allocated from unassigned fund balances to assigned fund balances. Is that correct? That number? 107,362 and 30. That's the fiscal impact that we're voting on.
Our director.
What was your-
Finance director is saying yes.
Mr. Kunish, what is the financial impact at this time? Could you please give me the exact? Mr. Romden, could you repeat that figure?
Sure. Yeah, in the little box where it says financial impact,
Yes, sir.
based on the amended resolution. The $30,000 would be in there for allocated for additional building maintenance in 2023. And then $107,362 would be allocated from unassigned fund balance to assigned fund balances.
And the total then is? 107,362. Very well. Thank you for catching that, Supervisor Romden, and getting us all nice and clean. All right. Any other discussion? We have a motion. Supervisor Vollenweider has moved. There was a motion, though. There was the amended motion. Mastelier
John Mass.
was the amended motion. Right.
The original. Augustine and Swagel was the amendment.
Okay,
Augustine Master original motion, Augustine Swagel was the amendment. So you're going back to the original amendment that was moved by Augustine, seconded by Mastler. Yes. Original motion that had been amended.
any questions? Further discussion? We will move. Oh, take your time.
Perhaps a cleaner way to put that is we are now voting on the resolution before you as amended.
Right.
That might be an easier way to
say it.
grasp
Yes.
that.
For the 107,362 total. With the 75 stricken. There we go. No. Right. Very well. You have a motion? Supervisor Augustine. Second, Supervisor Mastelier. Correct? All right. We will move on whenever the clerk is ready. You may register your vote. We have 14 yes, 4 no. Is that a 2/3? We need 2 absent. Mr. Depot? Does that not give us the 2/3? Motion fails.
If people are then wondering what happens, then all the money goes back into the general fund.
All right,
unless there's another motion. Sorry, another motion couldn't be done because it wasn't agendized. I apologize.
right. All right. Whenever the clerk is. I'm sorry. This one. The board members have not received, it's not in the packet. But that needed 2/3.
I would believe that for the budget, you need to do 2/3 of the board, not 2/3 of present.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to, on the, prior to the next resolution, there is a,
Mr. Chair, one moment, please.
yes. Why don't I adjourn?
Because I was thinking 3/4. 3/4 is 15. 2/3 is
Okay.
only.
There
is
were 14 that voted yes, so
Then
that
that is 2/3. No, you go absolute value. It's 13.34, which means it has to go to 14. I'm sorry, 2/3 of 20 is 13.334. If you do that, that means there has to be 14 yes votes. There were 14 yes votes.
Okay, so motion carried.
I
All right.
apologize.
On the next motion, Mr. Depo, we're not able to act on this, are we?
Button here. There's some additional information that is still required in the supporting documents that I want to put before the board before you make a decision on a resolution. So I will have those next month.
Okay. Okay. So then we will move on to consideration of ordinance read at previous county board meeting. There are none. Communications, resolutions from other counties. The clerk has informed me that there are 11, so we are not going to read all of them. You may see the clerk to look at those after following the meeting. I also was asked to announce that you can receive these updates from the clerk should you request to do so. She has 5 board members that currently do. So if you want to receive those, you may contact her. Kewaunee County events. Do we have any? Supervisor Lazansky?
So our next board meeting is June 28th. So the Saturday prior to that, June 24th, is the Smokehouse Jamboree that VIP puts on at Legion Park in Algoma from 11 to 4. So it's a free event. There's things for it's a community event for things for the whole family. And Virginia and I are also selling the ball drop raffle tickets. So I've got some with me to sell as well.
Thank you. Any others? Supervisor Augustine?
Kewaunee County's annual breakfast on the farm. I believe that's Father's Day. Come on out. There's a mass in the morning at 7 a.m. And then I believe breakfast is served from 8 till 1, 8 till noon. Teen Homestead.
Thank you. Others? All right.
Supervisor Augustine, can you give the date for that again?
It's June 18th, Sunday, Father's Day, I believe.
All right, thank you. Chair comments. I received a letter from Wisconsin Department of Children and Families. Phyllis Fuller, Director, Bureau of Child Support. It is addressed to Peggy Seidel, Director of Kewaunee County Child Support Agency. States, congratulations to the Kewaunee County Child Support Agency for receiving the Federal Fiscal Year 2022 Certificate of Excellence Award. The Kewaunee County Child Support Agency demonstrated excellence in all 4 performance measures: paternity establishment, court order establishment, current support collections, and arrears case reductions. Your agency was one of 16 child support agencies honored this year with this award. Congratulations on this exceptional accomplishment. On behalf of Wisconsin's children, thank you for a job well done. So wanted to share that. All right. Dates for the next meetings, we already have previously scheduled June 28th and July 18. August 15th is proposed. August 15th, our usual time, 6 p.m. Does that work for everyone? All right, if there is, oh, sorry. Giving you too many things at once. Sorry, 15th, August 15th at 6 p.m. So if I have a motion for that. Thank you, Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Poppy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right, at this time, would entertain a motion to go into closed session. Supervisor Vollenweider, Supervisor Langto. All in favor of the motion to go into closed session signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. At this time, I'm going to ask for supervisors and corporation